Welcome to The Entrepreneur in You, the podcast that unlocks the secrets to success in the trying world of being a busy entrepreneur. I'm your host, Troy Cummings, and I'm thrilled to embark on this journey with you as we dive deep into the minds of industry experts who have achieved remarkable success in their respective fields. Welcome to The Entrepreneur in You, where we help entrepreneurs learn, earn, and grow their business. I would like to welcome Scott Hack to the podcast today. Scott was born in the Louisville, Kentucky area and has spent most of his life living in the Crestwood, Pewee Valley area. Scott is a real estate broker and partner at Finish Line Realty in Louisville, Kentucky. Scott and his wife are the creators of Real Estate Distilled, an innovative and fun experience for real estate education. When Scott is not helping his clients, you can find him relaxing with his wife and daughters at Nolan Lake. Scott says being a father is the most rewarding job he has ever had. So without further ado, let's welcome Scott Hack to The Entrepreneur in You. Hey, Scott, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Been looking forward to having you on the call today. And I know you bring a different approach with your technology background and especially with your real estate distilled event. So looking forward to jumping into all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to share and see if we can drop some information and maybe push someone along on their journey.
Thank you. Hey, so I wanted to jump in and really just jump in and talk about market conditions. You know, what is your overall feel on the market right now? Are you seeing more listings come on, or is it staying pretty even keel right now?
In general, I think we're seeing a little bit of a level, kind of a plateau. I was actually talking to someone the other day, and we were talking about inventory, and we are seeing obviously a reduction in the total number of transactions that are taking place. And I think that's, a combination of people that have really exceptional interest rates on their houses and a little bit of lack of inventory and not knowing where they would go if they were to sell. So the transactions that are taking place are those ones that, the pain points have gotten really strong. So, divorce and death, job opportunities out of state. But the typical move up buyer that's looking for a little bit more elbow room, those people tend to be waiting just a little bit longer than we might have seen in the past. So I think that's contributing to the lower transactions, but pricing is staying strong. With lower inventory, obviously comes, increase in overall demand for those listings. Mm-hmm. So that's kept pricing up and still seeing appreciation. So,
yeah, and I know the big topic obviously right now is rates. From anything that you're seeing in your research or different groups you're a part of, are we seeing that maybe the Fed is going to be easing rates soon, or do you think we're in for the long haul, can potentially see higher rates?
I've honestly been surprised that they peaked where they did. I thought we would see, a lower number for peak. Mm-hmm. Good or bad, we have a presidential election that's going to be taking place. And I think, both parties are going to be, zeroed in on that, and interest rates are going to be a talking point, good and bad. So I do think that, both parties are going to do what they can to try to make it look favorable, what they can control. It wouldn't surprise me if we see things stay high for a while. But I think if we can get closer to 5.5%, that we would see a significant, leap in market and people ready to make a move. So I'm hoping we get there sooner than later.
Yeah, it's very good points. And changing directions a little, I know you're a big tech guy, and I want to cover, several things around tech for our listeners. I know you're into domains, and I would love to for you to explain a little bit to our audience how maybe a new agent or even a seasoned agent can use a specific domain to drive business.
Yeah. So yeah, I am into domains. Anything tech related, I tend to put my finger on it. And domains are something I think is pretty easy to understand and wrap my head around it. As a real estate agent and real estate broker, something has a value, and its location is a big part of what drives that value. And with a domain name, there's only one of those domains out there. So once that domain name's gone, no one else can have that domain name. So as from equating that to location, it's really easy to see how keywords in those domains can have a impact on value. And domains are similar to in a billboard, is that, you only have a quick second to really tell what that's about. My main website, for instance, is LouisvilleRealEstate.com. So there's only maybe 2 or 3 other domains that would have the same like in your face opportunity to tell you what that domain is about. Outside of LouisvilleRealEstate.com. So I obviously think it's a strong value domain, and it's been, a key element to me growing my business. And what you want to keep in mind with the domains is when you're putting them in print, and also the opportunity to show up in organic rankings in search engines. So those are, and also for pay-per-click. So the domain name is part of your call to action. So if I went to, went to Google and I did a search for cars, and one of the websites was, ToyotaLouisville.com, and one of the other ones was randomcars.com, and I was looking for a Toyota, then Toyota Louisville is going to be a stronger domain in intent of the person that's, clicking on that search and clicking on that, either that ad. So I think that print magazines, postcards, obviously organic search, sign writers, all those are different opportunities for a domain to have an embedded command. So searching, exploring, seeing, all verbs that can be used to drive traffic to your site associated with your domains.
Yeah, I feel like over time, the domains, obviously when websites came out, there was a lot more, precedence put towards those, and it's kind of fell to the wayside. But you're right, when you think about when you're looking for a particular product, a great domain, it just separates you. And I always tell people, I kind of look at it like a great domain, like you've told me before, like owning real estate, but having that best domain is like having the real estate on Main Street versus having the real estate 2 or 3 blocks off of Main Street, right?
Yeah,
so if you have that great domain, it's really just going to separate you. And that's something that's fell to the wayside. I feel like lately that, hey, if you're somebody who looks up a domain on a website or like a GoDaddy or something like that, and it's taken, don't feel like, oh gosh, I can't use it. Even if you got to pay a little bit for it to get it, I mean, it's going to pay you dividends down the road, right? It's just like when we buy actual real estate. Yeah. Did we pay more for it than the guy who bought it 20, 30 years ago? Absolutely. But that particular domain is like that prime real estate, and it's going to, repay you tenfold if you're able to take it and market it right and put it out there on all the marketing pieces like that you said.
Yeah. I mean, when I'm talking about my business and I talk about my websites, the domains, I mean, I refer to them as digital assets. I mean, and then that's what they are. They're appreciating. So, what I paid for the domain almost 15 years ago, it's definitely worth more today than it was 15 years ago. And it'll be worth more, in 15 years than it is from today, because there's scarcity. There's only one of them that exists. So I'm a big believer. And I was teasing someone the other day, we are both in the Louisville metro market. We're in Kentucky. Bourbon is a big deal here in Kentucky. We use a bourbon and spirits theme for the conference that my wife and I do, but collecting domain names is easier than collecting bourbon bottles. They take up a lot less space.
Yeah. So. Yeah, you're right there. That's for sure. And I'm a bourbon bottle collector too. So, and I have boxes, so I definitely know what you're talking about there. So I can definitely understand what you mean. Yeah. What is one technology or tool around marketing, social media that is a game changer for you that maybe you use in your business? Is it AI, or is it a particular software, or what is it for you?
I don't necessarily think I have one particular technology. I've actually not jumped on AI probably as heavily as a lot of people have. And I do consider myself an early adopter, but what I've kind of decided with AI is that there's still a lot of figuring out what its best use is going to be.
Yeah.
And I think basics, honestly, is as lame as it sounds, is just really making sure that you're doing basics. So having a CRM where you're recording your conversations and your marketing intent with people, collecting all that information so you can take actionable steps, based on that information. I'm 46, and although my memory is pretty good, I can't remember, information about thousands of different people.
Sure.
So having a strong database that you can refer back to, that will show your emails, that when you had last communications, I think all of that's important to leverage and move things forward. So one of the things that I've done the most recently is built basically an online business card. As I'm doing a lot of face-to-face and belly-to-belly networking, having a quick and easy way to exchange information with people, either through an NFC business card, hoping that I'm getting into their phones. I'm still a big believer in passing out, paper business cards as well.
Yeah.
But having just a place to collect, especially as an entrepreneur, I want a place where I can direct people to about me. They can go to my real estate brokerage website. They can go to the conference website. They can download my VCF file. They can find out about the coffee brand that my wife and I run. So having just like an online place that's not just a social media profile is something that I think is beneficial and important for people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have to ask, what is your take on, like Zillia, Trulia, websites like that aggregate data from the MLS? Do you feel like long-term this is maybe bad for realtors, or, and do you truly think tech in 5, 10, 15 years can lead to less need for realtors?
So number one, Zillow is a brokerage now. So as a member of NAR, I have to be careful about what I say about a peer brokerage. But, when Zillow first entered the scene, they were operating under a different business model than they are today. And I think that agents that decided to partner with them originally in the beginning probably did well. Unfortunately, I do think that it was short-sighted as an industry that we let that take place. They're not a whole lot different than newspaper advertising was in probably, the early 90s, late 80s. They're a place that has eyeballs, and they're exchanging those eyeballs, converting them into leads. And then there's an opportunity for someone to potentially turn them into a client. Unfortunately, the newspaper decided to, evolve. Now that information is getting sent directly to someone else that doesn't own that listing. And that's kind of the difference. When the newspaper advertising model, those leads were going directly to the listing agent. And Zillow's model today, those are going to, whoever basically pays the most amount of money. But it's not a whole lot, different than what my business model is. The reason why I have a website is because I want people to search for listings on my site.
Yeah, sure.
So, we're competing for the same eyeballs. And that's essentially what it comes down to is competing for those eyeballs, either through branding plays like Zillow's done, or through optimization and offering information that doesn't scale for a large national company like Zillow to share about. So you mentioned in my bio, I live in Pewee Valley. It's by most standards, it's a pretty small city. So anything I can share that wouldn't show up on a national website like Zillow is going to help set my site apart, set me apart. I can be boots on the ground expert, and Zillow can't do that for every single neighborhood niche.
Sure. Yeah, I never really thought about it too. I mean, with the internet data exchange of things, in all reality, I guess if we have our own website, we're all kind of like a Zillow. In a sense, if our website can API or pull in, data, I guess it's always kind of baffled me how Zillow can get into so many MLSs, but I guess that doesn't mean that your brokerage, I guess if you were licensed in a state or, did all that stuff, couldn't say, okay, hey, I want to be a member of your MLS and aggregate all that data too back to your website, just like a Zillow would.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some significant changes in the industry over the past 10 or 15 years related to that. So it used to be a lot of the MLS feeds would say that you could not commingle your listings. So, for instance, if I have something that is in the Bluegrass Association of Realtors in Lexington, and I have something that is listed in the Greater Louisville Association of Realtors, it used to be that I couldn't share those listings side by side, even if they were in the same city. That's changed, and most MLSs today have gotten rid of rules about commingling. It was anti, competition.
Yeah.
It was on the MLS level. They didn't want another MLS to get a footing and have listings from two side by side cities. So they were trying to make it a little bit more difficult. But that's one of the things that's changed over the past 10 years. And now that you can commingle, yeah, I could go into Northern Kentucky, Louisville, Bowling Green, Owensboro, and I could run an MLS feed from all those different sites, even Southern Indiana, if you were licensed over there. That's basically what Zillow's done. I don't know how many MLSs there are across the country, but it's in the hundreds, if not 1,000, and they're a member of all of those.
Yeah, this is pretty impressive for just their growth over the years and what they've done. Definitely kind of a game changer for the space, for sure. Now, I've heard rumblings of buyers having to maybe pay their own buyer's agent commission. Are you seeing this to be true, or is it just rumblings at this point? And what are your thoughts on this?
Rumblings probably isn't the right term, but what we are in is the National Association of Realtors is actually helping defend the real estate industry against two different lawsuits that are taking place right now that are related to buyer agency and buyer agent compensation. So the rumblings that you call them that you're hearing are related to those lawsuits and what might change if one or both of those lawsuits were to be successful against the National Association of Realtors in the way that we do buyer compensation in the United States. As a market, I don't think that buyer agency agreements are probably used more than 15, 20% of the time in our market. There are some states where they're a requirement. And I do think that as we continue to move down the line, that number could increase in Kentucky and in this market. And at some point, potentially could be a state requirement. But when you look at the real estate industry as a whole and the National Association of Realtors as a whole of its lifetime, buyer agency is a somewhat new part of the business. You're looking at something that's been around for 20, 25 years at the most, related to an industry that's been around for almost 150 years. So at least, the National Association of Realtors. So in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of a newer concept. And I think the industry is just going to continue to adapt and evolve. And as agents, we are probably going to have to do a better job of sharing how we bring value to the transaction and showing, what I do think there will be some pushback, and there'll be some other companies that push that limit. And we might end up at some point, like you said, needing to collect compensation from buyers directly. And if that happens, I think lending standards will have to change so buyers can finance it. I mean, because buyers are financing it now. They're the ones that bring the money to the transaction, even though it's paid out of the seller's proceeds. They're the ones that are bringing that money to the transaction now. So I just think that where it's put on the settlement statement could end up getting shifted, and we might have to make some changes to lending standards and rules to allow that to happen. So yeah, the markets and industry is going to change. I just don't know how fast and how extreme it's going to be short term.
Sure. Well, I'd like to switch directions a little bit and tell our audience more about Real Estate Distilled. Can you start off by telling us, how you came up with it?
Yeah. So I've been in the business about 15 years, and I've attended, several conferences over the years. And essentially what was happening is I went to a couple of different conferences that were put together by some vendors. And I went to the conferences and I came home and I was talking to my wife, Liz, and I was like, yeah, I'm honestly wasn't really thrilled with that conference. I feel like I paid money, bought a ticket, and then I basically was pitched to the whole time by like partners of this vendor. And I was asked, to spend more money. And I was like, I paid to go to get advertised to. And I didn't feel like that the content that I had picked up was as beneficial as it could be. So in the super entrepreneur, hard-headed, I can be better, do better mindset, I convinced my wife to come along on the journey with me.
Nice.
And she has a nonprofit and event planning background, which includes sponsorship development. So, we hitched our wagons together, and she took care of venue planning and working with the hotels and the Convention and Visit Bureau and helping with sponsorship. And I reached out to people that I knew, liked, and trust in the industry from across the country and helped put together content and speakers. And so that we are in the process of planning our 6th event in 7 years. So really excited that not only that we've done it for 5 years, but we're heading to our 6th year. I can tell you that it would not surprise me that there's a lot of first and only 1-year conferences, just based on the amount of work that it takes. It's certainly not something that we do for monetary gain, but as a broker owner, it was important for me to provide opportunities for my agents to learn from other agents and meet other people. And that's actually been the biggest impact on my personal business. I always tell our attendees at the conference that, the people that are there that are speaking on stage, they obviously have expertise and content that they can share with you. But the person that you're sitting next to and you're having lunch with that you can call up on a random Tuesday and ask a question that's out of your market is even more valuable. So we've been building the community. We have about 2,000 agents in our Facebook group currently. We've been growing the conference about 10% a year. We'll probably have about 175 people this year that come into Louisville and come and learn, and hopefully also check out a bourbon distillery while they're here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Could you give us a little rundown? I know you can't tell us everything, but maybe what an attendee can expect and experience at Real Estate Distilled.
Yeah, so we are still actually developing content and putting things together. But just speaking from years past, what we typically do is, and going forward, we're going to have a 3-day event. So people are going to come in town. We're going to have some workshops. We're going to have some breakouts on day 1. Day 2, we're going to have some breakouts, potentially some workshops. And then day 3 is going to be one main session that's going to be taking place. So the speakers are going to be talking. Most speakers are going to be 45 minutes to an hour. Workshops could be up to 3 hours, depending on topic. But we basically ask the speakers to come in and distill their information. So we want them to get right into it, talk about things that are happening from the, from the trenches. We really try to have people that are working day to day in real estate that aren't necessarily just on a speaking circuit, but they're sharing expertise from their day to day. We do as many meals as we can together because it is community building is a big part of the conference as well. We also invite one of our bourbon brands to come in. We'll learn a little bit about them. Usually an ambassador or the master distiller will lead us through a tasting. So that's a big part of it. And then whatever opportunities we have to show off Kentucky and Louisville specifically are things that we're going to do. So, if that's taking people down to the Ali Center, if basketball games line up, we can get into the Yum Center. We really want people to come in town and experience Louisville for everything that it is as a great city. So,
and it looks like it's February 27th, 28th, and 29th of 2024 this year.
That's correct. We just released the dates actually the last week and locked those in. So next year is a leap year. So we're hoping people that are going to take that extra day that we're given next year and invest in themselves and come and spend time with the distilled community.
Yeah, and I love that you said you actually, have people speak that are actually in the market doing the business, because I do see that at some conferences that the people that they have speak is maybe someone who used to be in the business, but now they're just really on a speaking circuit trying to, sell tapes or not tapes anymore, but MP3s or, whatever class that they're selling, but they're not actually in the trenches. So I love that you also have a good amount of people that are still out there in the trenches doing the work, speak at the event. That really says a lot.
Yeah, it's important. And obviously not every single person speaking, not all the content shared is going to be directly, applicable to someone's business, but we try to mix it up. There's a lot of opportunity. to learn. And like I said, just making connections with the other people that are there. We have a referral map that we have set up. So, people can go in and see who they met that was in Atlanta, who did they say that was there in Orlando. So go in and try to, have those referrals take place.
Absolutely. That's great. So where can people get the most up-to-date information about attending Real Estate Distilled?
So we do have a little bit of information on the website right now. If they go to realestatedistilled.com, it is in a flip over period. So, obviously the speakers that are on there right now are from last year. We will start releasing some of the speaker information over the next month or so. We won't start our early bird tickets until actually September. But if they send an email, that's probably the easiest way to Real Estate Distilled, Scott at Louisville Real Estate Distilled. Scott at realestatedistilled.com.
Okay.
Or if they go to scotthack.com and just shoot an email to me on that link, I can put them on the mailing list. And then joining the Facebook group is also another great way to stay connected. I think it's facebook.com/groups/real estate distilled.
Yeah. And I have up here real estate, I guess. Do they have to attend the event to join the group or this? No. I have real estate. Okay.
Yeah. So they don't have to join the event to attend the group or join the group. They don't have to attend. It's open to the community. And we actually have conversation taking place in there year round.
Okay.
We didn't do a great job this year, but we're doing a ramp up into February of next year where we're going to be hosting webinars and inviting some people in to share expertise that might not be a speaker at the event or were a speaker at a previous event, and we're going to dive deeper with them on their topic. I know your numbers guy, Troy. We had Hank as a speaker, this year, and he was talking about like valuations of teams and how some team leaders are actually running not a deficit on their agents because the overhead that it takes for that agent to be on a team, and they're not paying attention to what their numbers are. So we're going to probably dig it a little bit deeper in with Hank on some different things. We've got.
Yeah, I mean, when you say that in a good market, the numbers always look good, right? Yeah. And it's during these times of when we're slow or the market's flipped over some that. Where you really have to be even better with your numbers and really deep dive. And if you're not, it'll creep up on you. And before you know it, you're underwater. And that's great that you guys do that. So that's very good for, maybe agents that are listening that, to get a good grasp of those numbers is huge. Yeah.
And, obviously agents are the main focus we also have lenders there. We have insurance agents that join us. Anyone basically that's connected into the housing industry. And a lot of the sales and marketing things that we do, there's a lot of crossover and it's not different. We've, just to give you an example, I've had conversations with people in the car business, like to a certain extent, marketing is marketing. And sometimes, looking outside the industry at some ideas that are working, and how you can adapt those to as a real estate agent is interesting. I know the lenders who have attended, always pick up information and how they can, be better working with the agents and what the agent struggles are. So it works out well.
Well, that's great. That's great. Well, I want to let all of our listeners know, Scott's actual real estate business. You can visit that at LouisvilleRealEstate.com. Scott individually on Facebook, you can search Scott Hack. Looks like it's facebook.com/Scott Hack. Also, realestatedistilled.com for more information about the event. And like he said, they are doing a changeover for this year's speaker. So keep that in mind, maybe when you're there viewing it. But you can get or request some information there. And then the Facebook, if you're not on there, I definitely recommend that you get on there, do the invite, and Scott can get you added. And that way you're kept up to date on all the information and stuff about the event. So Well, I'd like to go ahead and wrap up the podcast today. And I'd really like to thank Scott Hack for coming on the show today and providing us a lot of valuable content for our listeners. So thank you, Scott.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate the opportunity. If anybody has any questions about technology, domains, or running a conference and they need some help, be sure and reach out. I'm happy to connect and share what we've learned.
Great. Thank you, Scott. So that'll wrap it up today. Thank you for listening to The Entrepreneur in You. Thank you for tuning in to The Entrepreneur in You. I hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as I did. If you found value in today's podcast, be sure to hit that follow or subscribe and leave us a review so other people can find this podcast and gain value from it as well.